welcome back yet again to the Princesslandia Podcast. This is episode 3 of the podcast. I'm your host, Prince Aladdin. With me, as always, is Flynn Ryder. Flynn, how long do you think I have to number the episodes? Like, when can I stop? When can I say this is a new episode? I don't know. I'd say maybe at about number 10, you can stop doing that. Number 10? That's not bad. I can live with that. Okay, we have a terrific episode ahead of us today. Just a great show. We have a very fun topic, and we have an amazing panel of experts. Just an elite panel today. I'm very excited about today's show. Flynn, how are you feeling this week? I feel really good. I'm just as excited as you are. We have a very fun topic. And like you said, we have just a terrific panel of experts today, so I'm really excited. I think we should just dive right into it today. Yeah, so do I. I don't want to mess around today. I'm not even going to bring up your coffee mug, which is ridiculous. You're a ridiculous man sometimes. You really are. I don't know what you're talking about. This thing you have with the coffee mugs, it's getting embarrassing. Actually, Rapunzel bought this for me last week, and she really wanted me to bring it to the show today, so I don't know what you're talking about. Not a single person believes that this is not some kind of plan of yours with the coffee mugs, but like I said, I'm not even going to talk about it, because it's ridiculous, and you're ridiculous. So, before we get started, I do want to give a shout out to Ron Burgundy, our technical coordinator, the man behind the scenes. Ron, how you doing this week? Oh, are you talking to me this week? Yeah, I felt really bad about kind of cutting you out of the show last week, Ron. But all the data pointed to less Ron. But there hasn't been a big sway in public opinion this week. Instead of less Ron, we got a lot of emails and letters that said more Ron. They wanted more Ron. So yeah, you're back. Ron. How you feeling? Did any of the letters or emails say that I should be one of the co-hosts? No, God, no, we didn't get any information like that, but they did want you more involved. So here you are, Ron. How you feeling? Are you going to answer the question? Well, I feel good about public opinion, but I still think a hosting gig would be nice. All right. Well, we're just going to move on from that. Okay, today's topic, a loaded one again. Today's topic is the 10 best westerns of all time. The 10 best westerns. One of my favorite genres. So many great movies to choose from. A very difficult topic, obviously, but man, what a fun topic to tackle. Flynn, I know you agree with me. I do. I love westerns. I love old westerns. I love new westerns. It's just a terrific genre. Some of my favorite movies of all time, and I'm thrilled about talking about this topic today. I'm very excited in general. It is a great topic today, Flynn. Very difficult topic. We're talking 100 years of great westerns, great movies, great actors, great directors. Just so many great westerns to choose from. And it made for some tough cuts. Let's get into that first. The tougher omissions that we had to make on this list. There were some tough ones. Flynn, as always, you wanna go ahead and get it started? Yeah. There were a lot of tough choices we had to make with this one. I went back and forth with my list a lot. I had a lot of different movies in and then out, and it was a very tough list. I'll start with an older one that didn't make my list, or either of our lists. It's The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. Terrific movie, a classic. You got Jimmy Stewart, you got John Wayne, you got the great Lee Marvin. Really great movie, really great western. It was a tough one to leave out of my list, but like you said, we had to make some tough cuts, and this one did not make my top 10. Yeah, that was a tough one. That is a great movie. I'll give you a one, The Outlaw Josie Wells with Clint Eastwood, who will be featured a lot on this list. One of the most prolific actors of all time, especially in westerns. We probably could have had a top 10 list of westerns with just Clint Eastwood movies, to be honest with you. That's how much great work he's done in that field. But The Outlaw Josie Wells, as much as I love it, I love that movie. It didn't make the 10 best list for me or you, and it was a tough cut. It hurt me to leave it out, but didn't quite make my list. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one. I'll give you a fairly newer one. that I love, Open Range with the great Robert Duvall and of course Kevin Costner. Very enjoyable movie. A lot of great aspects to it. Great acting, great plot. The undermanned guys against the big gang, aspect of it, which is great in westerns. Really enjoyable movie. At the end of the day, it didn't make the 10 best list, but that is a great movie, a great western. That is a good one. I got another fairly newer one for you. A little underrated movie, in my opinion. The Three Burials of Melquiada Estrada, with the great Tommy Lee Jones, one of his greatest performances of all time. Barry Pepper does a phenomenal job in it. Little slower paced movie, a little different, but never boring. Like very high drama, very emotional movie. Great movie, and like I said, it might be Tommy Lee Jones' greatest performance in his stellar career. So that was a tough leave out for me, but that was another one. Yeah, I agree with you about that. That might be Tommy Lee Jones' greatest performance. I also love that movie. Didn't make my 10 best, but it doesn't mean I don't love that movie. I got an older one for you. High Noon. High Noon with great Grace Kelly and Gary Cooper. Terrific movie. Classic Western. Two of the greatest actors of all time. Very enjoyable movie. At the end of the day, it didn't make the 10 best, but great movie. Obviously, great acting. Tough leave out for me, but didn't quite make the list. All right. Well, I think the last one we'll talk about on the emotions list is Dances with Wolves, with Kevin Costner, of course. Won Best Picture, not just Best Western. Won the Oscar for Best Picture. Great movie, very entertaining, very dramatic, very thoughtful movie. It didn't make the list though for either one of us. I tell you, the one reason maybe it didn't, it's not the most rewatchable Western of all time. When you first see it, you're blown away. It's epic. It's a sweeping epic. But the more you watch it, the slower parts get a little slower and stuff like that. And terrific movie. I'm not taking anything away from it, but didn't make either one of our 10 best list. And like we've said, there were some very tough cuts in this list, like there are in all our lists. But this was a hard list, and Dance with Wolves did not quite make it. So all right. Well, I think that's all we have for the omissions portion of the podcast. I think we're going to get right to our two list. Right, Flynn? Yep, I think we'll get right to our two lists for the 10 best westerns of all time. Let's do it. All right, let's get right to it. At my number 10 on the 10 best westerns of all time, I have The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. One of the longer titles in movie history, but nonetheless, a terrific movie, a terrific western. A terrific performance by Brad Pitt, as he always does. Sometimes I think with Brad Pitt, he's so cool and, quite frankly, so gorgeous that I think people sometimes forget what a phenomenal actor he is. And this was no exception. I think this is on his Mount Rushmore of performances for him personally. And then you've got Casey Affleck, who also put in a great performance, playing a coward, which apparently he does in real life too. But as far as the movie goes, great performance by Casey Affleck. Great movie, great performances, and that's why I have it at my number 10. All right, I agree with you. A terrific performance by Brad Pitt. He was Jesse James in that movie. But for my number 10, I have For a Few Dollars More, part 2 of the Man with No Name trilogy from Sergio Leone and Clint Eastwood. All of them are great. This one is exceptional. I'll tell you the difference for me, the game changer in this movie for me is Lee Van Cleef in this movie. Just a commanding performance from him. He stole the scene from Clint Eastwood, which is not an easy thing to do at all. But that's how great he was in this movie. And I love this movie, and I have it at my number 10. It is a good one. All right, let's get to number 9. At my number 9, I have The Magnificent Seven, the original one from 1960. Terrific movie. You got Yul Brynner at the height of his powers. You've got Steve McQueen doing what he does best, which is putting in phenomenal performances. Great story, great acting, just terrific stuff. And you got Charles Bronson in there too. Terrific cast. The small group against the world, like we talked about earlier with westerns. Phenomenal movie. I prefer the original. I do, and I went with that at my number 9. All right. Well, at my number 9, I have The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. I don't think I could make a top 10 list of westerns without having the great John Huston on it. He's made so many great westerns. He's a phenomenal director who makes great movies, and westerns were a part of it. And then, of course, you got Humphrey Bogart, one of my favorite actors of all time. Just cool. He's just cool in everything he does. He's a phenomenal actor, and this movie's terrific. Great story, great acting, great action. And I have Treasure of Sierra Madre at my number 9. All right, well, my number 8, I have the third installment in the Man with No Name trilogy. I have The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. A sweeping epic. Clint Eastwood, Sergio Leone, obviously. And then also, they brought back Lee Van Cleef, who gives in another great performance. Just a epic movie. Great action, great story, great drama. I have The Good and the Bad and the Ugly at my number 8. All right, well, I mean, it's hard to argue. Obviously, nobody's going to argue that one being on the list. At my number 8, I have 3:10 to Yuma. And I went with the 2007 version. I love both installments of 3:10 Yuma, but I prefer the latter one with Russell Crowe putting in one of his great performances, which is a very long list. He's one of the greatest actors of this generation. And then Christian Bale, who you can throw right into that same argument. Just terrific performances by both of them. The Kid is good. I'm not going to come up with his name, but he's terrific in that movie. Great action, great drama. Oh, and Ben Foster playing the right-hand man for Russell Crowe's gang. Just scary. Just a scary character, and terrific movie. Terrific movie. All right, let's get to number 7. At my number 7, I have True Grit. And I have the 2010 vehicle with the Coen brothers at the helm. Great movie. I like the original True Grit, but I prefer the second one. Jeff Bridges, one of my favorite actors of all time, at the top of his game. Terrific. Matt Damon, obviously, is good in just about everything he does. Haley Steinfeld was like 13 when they made that movie, and just kills it. Just gives a unbelievable performance in that movie as a 13-year-old. So I love both True Grit movies, but I went with the later one, the 2010 version, as my number 7. All right. Well, my number 7, I had Django Unchained from Quentin Tarantino. Fantastic movie. Jamie Foxx is phenomenal. Christopher Waltz, obviously. You got Leonardo DiCaprio in a smaller role, for him anyway, but just amazing. Samuel Jackson, obviously great in everything he does. Terrific movie. Tarantino is one of the great directors, probably of all time, but definitely in the last 50 years, even though apparently he's going to retire soon. But terrific movie. I love that movie. Jamie Foxx is terrific, and I went with Django Unchained at number 7. The interesting thing about that movie is Will Smith was in line to play Django. But he thought Christopher Waltz was kind of the star. His character, Christopher Waltz, was kind of be the star, and he didn't like that. Will Smith takes a backseat to no one. No one, except maybe his wife. But let's get on to number 6. Number 6, I have The Searchers. The John Ford classic with John Wayne at the helm. I'm not a huge John Wayne fan. I find him a little ridiculous at times, but this movie is terrific, and I love this movie. It's a great story. It's a great movie. Obviously, the direction by John Ford is always terrific, and just a great movie. It was tough to keep it at number 6, actually. It could have been a lot higher, but I have that at number 6. All right. Yeah, I also enjoy that movie. It didn't make my list, but it's my favorite John Wayne performance. I agree with you on that. At my number 6, I have The Magnificent Seven, but I went with the 2016 version. I think it's better. I just do. First of all, you got Denzel Washington, one of the greatest actors who ever lived. Chris Pratt does a great Steve McQueen impression. As great as Steve McQueen was, I think Chris Pratt nailed that role as well. Every character is so great in that movie. Every single character. Billy is one of the coolest characters to be on a screen. The Native American kid, I can't remember the character's name. Vincent D'Onofrio. I mean, just terrific cast. All the characters are so cool, except for Ethan Hawke, of course, who plays a bit of a coward in a basket case. It's good acting though, but like all the characters are so enjoyable, so cool. I prefer the 2016 version of the Magnificent Seven, and I have it at number 6. All right, we're gonna get into the top 5 now. The top 5, the best of the best. And I'll start it off with my number 5. I have Once Upon a Time in the West. You talked about Sergio Leone earlier. He did this one as well. This is a phenomenal movie. Charles Bronson. He doesn't have a name either. I think he's just a harmonica guy. Jason Robards, one of the great actors of all time. And then, of course, Henry Ford, playing the bad guy. Real reversal for him. He's always the good guy. But he played the blue-eyed bad guy in this one, and he puts in a stellar performance. Terrific movie. I love it. I have it at my number 5. All right. I'll get to that one eventually, I feel. But at my number 5, I have The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. You touched on it before because you had it at your number 8. But The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is, like you said, it's a sweeping epic. It's a phenomenal movie. Clint Eastwood, Sergio Leone, Lee Van Cleef is back again. I'll tell you one little detail about this movie. You know, a lot of people talk about that scene from Inglourious Basterds with Christopher Waltz at the beginning, where he's at the guy's home looking for people he's hiding, and they talk about that scene like it's one of the most intense, dramatic scenes of all time. And it definitely is. But that scene had to be modeled after that Lee Van Cleef scene in The Good and the Bad and the Ugly at the beginning, where he just shows up at the guy's home and he's peppering him with questions, and it's very intense, and he's eating a bowl of soup the whole time. You know, like Christoph had the glass of milk. Lee's eating a bowl of soup the whole time, and it's so intense and so dramatic. And one of the great scenes in that movie, one of the great scenes of all time. And The Good and Bad, the Ugly overall is obviously one of the greatest westerns of all time, and I have it at number 5. All right, at number 4. Number 4, I have Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Robert Redford and Paul Newman. How could you go wrong there? Kind of a unique western. I mean, it's a western. It's got a lot of action. It's got a lot of great adventures in it, but so funny. Those two guys have such great chemistry together, and they're so funny together. Two of the great actors of all time. Paul Newman is probably the greatest actor of all time, in my opinion. But they're so good together. It's a great movie. So much fun, so much adventure. One of the great ending scenes in movie history. And I have Butch and Sundance as my number 4. All right, well, my number 4, I have Tombstone. Tombstone. One of the more enjoyable movies of all time. The first time I saw Tombstone, I walked away thinking that might be the greatest movie I've ever seen, because it has that effect on you. Val Kilmer, terrific actor, has had so many great performances. This has got to be number 1, doesn't it? As Doc Holliday, it's otherworldly. His performance. It's one of the greatest performances in movie history, and let alone Western movie history. And then Kurt Russell, man, guy makes great Westerns. You put Kurt Russell in a movie, and it's going to be a good movie, especially a Western movie. But terrific movie, great action. I haven't even mentioned my guy, Sam Elliott. I mean, geez, what a great cast, what a great movie. So much action, so much drama. I have Tombstone at number 4. Well, I obviously agree with you, except one step higher. I have Tombstone at number 3. I agree with everything you just said. Val Kilmer's performance, agreed. One of the greatest performances in movie history. Kurt Russell is always good. Sam Elliott, obviously, the voice, the presence. Just a amazing movie. Terrific action. Great lines when Kurt Russell slaps Billy Bob at the beginning. Man. And then Kurt Russell walking over the river to take on Powers Booth by himself in the whole game. And then obviously I'm Your Huckleberry. One of the most dramatic scenes in movie history. Val Kilmer shows up for that shootout with Johnny Ringo, and he's so cool, so cool. I mean, the whole theater stopped when you realized it was Val Kilmer in that scene. One of the great scenes in movie history. One of the great westerns of all time. I have it at number 3. All right, well, my number 3, I have Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. You had it, I think one spot lower. You had it at 4. I agree with you. It's one of the greatest movies of all time, let alone westerns of all time. And I also agree Paul Newman's probably the greatest actor of all time. But it's him and Robert Redford. They have amazing chemistry together. They're so funny. They're so great. And like you said, that last scene with the shootout at the end, when they go diving into that little abandoned church or whatever it is, it's one of the great scenes of all time. You call that giving cover. You call that running. And then they come blazing out thinking they're going against 10 guys, and it's 2,000. And then the frame creases. It's one of the great movie endings of all time. It's one of the great movies of all time, with 2 of the greatest actors of all time. And you know, the other thing about Butch Cassidy is that director put in like 5 years of research before he even made that movie. Like, he wanted to get every detail exactly right, and I'll tell you, he did it. He absolutely did it. It's one of the great westerns of all time. I have it at number 3. All right, we're down to our top 2. The top 2 on our top 10 best westerns of all time. Here we go. My number 2 is The Wild Bunch. A little lost sometimes when people are talking about westerns, but I think it's obviously one of the greatest westerns of all time. You've got William Holden, who puts on an amazing performance. Terrific movie. Great action. Small group, like we talked about before. Smaller group versus the big gang. Great action, great drama, great acting, great directing. Everything about that movie. I love The Wild Bunch, and I have it at my number 2. All right. Wow. I don't have The Wild Bunch in my 10 best. It was a tough cut for me. I love that movie. I agree with you. But you have it at number 2. I didn't even have my list. At my number 2, I have Unforgiven. Another Clint Eastwood classic, of course. The angle of the aging Western character who gives it one last ride. Unbelievable cast. Gene Hackman at the peak of his powers. Clint Eastwood, Morgan Freeman. Harris, right? Just so many great actors. Such a great movie. Hard to argue. Unforgiven being amongst the best of the greatest Western. Also won the Oscar for Best Picture. That's how great it was. Westerns don't get a lot of love, especially in modern times, but it won Best Picture. That's how great a movie it was. Everyone recognized how great it was, and I have it at number 2. All right, we're down to the top 1. Our number 1 picks for the 10 best westerns of all time, and I'm going to piggyback off you because I have Unforgiven at number 1. I agree with you. Great cast, unbelievable movie, great action, great drama. The aging Western character, terrific angle, Morgan Freeman. Again, I tell you what though, the ending is what does it for me. One of the greatest endings in movie history. From the moment he learns that Red has been killed by Little Bill, and he grabs that bottle of liquor, which, you know, he doesn't drink anymore, but he grabs that bottle of liquor, and from that moment on, he turns into that person again. The drama, the lines, he shows up at the bar to confront not only Gene Hackman, but like 30 townsmen, all by himself. I think it's one of the greatest endings in movie history. I think it's one of the greatest movies in movie history, and I think it's the greatest Western in movie history. So I have Unforgiven at number 1. Flynn, let's hear your number 1. All right, at my number 1, I have Once Upon a Time in the West. You had it a little earlier, the Sergio Leone classic, Charles Bronson, Jason Robards, Henry Fonda as the bad guy. Henry Fonda as the bad guy. Just terrific, too. I mean, unbelievable performance by him. Terrific movie, terrific pace, terrific drama, great action. The opening scene is one of the great opening scenes in movie history. You talk about Unforgiven having the greatest closing scene in movie history. Once Upon a Time has one of the great opening scenes in movie history where he's off the train and three guys are waiting for him. And they tell him that they didn't bring a horse for him, or it looks like they were one short. And then he, without blinking, he just says, "No, you brought two too many." One of the great opening scenes in movie history. In my opinion, the greatest Western in movie history. And, yeah, I have Once Upon a Time in the West as my number one Western of all time. All right, well, there you have it. Those are Flynn and I's list of the 10 best Westerns of all time. I hope you enjoyed the list. Maybe you agreed with them, maybe you didn't. I think it's pretty hard to argue that most of the movies we talked about are definitely deserving of being in the conversation. I think as many great Westerns as there are, I think both our lists had some of the greatest of all time on them, for sure. Now let's kick it over to Ron. Ron, let's hear from you. What did you think of Flynn and I's list for the 10 best Westerns of all time? Thank you, Ali, for kicking it over to me. I thought both lists were great. It was a very fun topic. So many great Westerns to talk about. So many great actors and directors, like you mentioned. I made a list just in case you asked me to host this week. And actually, at the top of my list, I had the good, the bad, and the ugly as my number one. I think that's the greatest Western of all time. You both had them on your list. I just thought they were a little low. But for me personally, that's my favorite Western of all time, and I think it's the greatest Western of all time. So that's my 2 cents. That's 2 cents worth a dollar there, Ron. That's what that is. Is that a thing? Well, it will be now. Yeah, that's great input from you, buddy. And a lot of people are going to have the good and the bad, the ugly as their number one. There's no denying that. Like you said, we both had them on our list. But we had them a little lower than you. I think now we should kick it over to our panel of experts because I'm very excited about the panel today. We've got a great panel. I think we should just kick it right off with the panel. Let's get right to it. Let's introduce the members of the panel. Our first member of the panel is none other than Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is the first member of the panel today. Welcome, Indiana. Yeah, well, thank you guys for having me on today. It's a great topic to be a part of. So many great Westerns in the history of cinema. So many great movies. A lot of fun to discuss and talk about. And we're going to have a lot of fun with it, I think, today, talking about our opinions. And it's just a real privilege to be here today. So thank you so much for having me on. It means a lot. It really does. Thank you. Well, thank you, Indiana. It's an absolute honor to have you here with us. Indiana Jones, maybe the greatest action character in the history of cinema. Ali, you can make that argument, I think, can't you? 100% you can make that argument. One of the greatest movie characters of all time. Obviously, one of the coolest movie characters of all time, and it's just an honor to have Indiana here with us today. Let's get to the second member of our panel. The second member of our panel is from Camelot. All the way from Camelot, we have with us King Arthur. King Arthur, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for being here, friend. Thank you very much. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for inviting me on the show for today's podcast. It's a great honor. I actually do not get invited to a lot of places here in Princesslandia. I'm guessing that's because I'm constantly asking people to join me on my quest in search of the Holy Grail. Indiana, what about you? You up for round two? Round one was a lot of fun. You up for round two? No, I'm good. Yep, that's everyone's response pretty much. But that aside, it's a lot of fun being here. It's a great topic, and I really appreciate you guys asking me on. I'm looking forward to diving into it. I really am. Yeah, he actually approached me right before the podcast about joining his quest to find the Holy Grail. Man, he is not going to give this up. No, he isn't. I think he should at this point. He's gotten a lot of no's, but It's what he does, and it's a lot of fun having him on here for today's show. Yeah, it certainly is. All right, well, let's get to the third member of our panel of experts. Our third member is Thor, the god of thunder or the god of lightning. Thor, which is it? Is it the god of thunder or the god of lightning? Well, it's both, actually. I'm the god of thunder. I'm also the god of lightning. I'm also the god of storms. I'm the god of sacred groves and trees. I'm the god of strength. I'm in charge of the protection of humankind. I cover a lot of ground as a god. I really do. And I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to do it for you little people. And I'm also very happy to be here. So thank you for having me on. Wow, you really do cover a lot of ground as a god. That's very impressive. And thank you, by the way. It means a lot. Thank you also for just being here. It's a real honor to have you on the panel. I hope you're excited to dive into this topic. I do. How excited are you about today's topic? I'm actually very excited. Since I've gotten to know your little planet, one of the things I've enjoyed most about it are the westerns. So I'm actually very excited to talk about that topic with you gentlemen here today. All right. Well, I'm excited that you're excited, Thor. I really am. And thank you for being here again today. All right, let's get to the fourth and final member of our panel. I'm a little in awe that we have this gentleman here with us today. I'm actually in awe of all four members of our panel today. Well, I'm in awe of three of them, and then we have King Arthur. But the fourth member of our panel is none other than Han Solo from Star Wars. Han Solo, thank you so much for joining us here today, Han. Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, guys. I didn't have a lot going on today, so I figured, sounds like fun to sit here with all you gentlemen and kick up the dust on some westerns, some old westerns, some new westerns, and, I like this genre. I'm a big fan of this genre. A lot of great movies in there, so it's going to be cool. I think it's going to be real cool to discuss this topic with you guys, and I'm looking forward to it. I really am. I'm looking forward to it. Well, we are both over the moon that you're here with us today. Thank you for being here. Thank you to all four members of our panel for being here with us today. And let's just get right to it. Let's get the opinions of our members of the panel. Let's go ahead and start with Indiana Jones. So, Indiana, your movies, of course, would not be labeled as westerns by any means, but I think there are a lot of similarities there. I don't know what you think about that. What are your thoughts? Well, no, I think that's a great thought. My movies are not westerns, of course, by any stretch of the imagination, but there's a lot of similarities there. The adventure aspect is always there in my movies. You guys talked about the one man or the small group against the world. That's there. And of course, my hat, it's not a cowboy hat, but it's a classic fedora. So I think there's definitely some similarities there. Right. Well, what do you think? What are your favorite westerns, or what'd you think of our list exactly? Were your favorite westerns on there? Were they not on there? Did you think the lists were good, or what are your favorite westerns exactly? What do you think? No, I thought the lists were good. I thought they were actually very good. Most of my favorite westerns were on there. I guess if I had to pick two, I'd say The Wild Bunch is one of my favorites, and then Once Upon a Time in the West is probably my favorite. I didn't want to bring this up earlier, but you called him Henry Ford earlier instead of Henry Fonda. I actually raised my hand to correct you, but you didn't call on me, so I just kind of let it go at the time. But I just thought I'd bring it up now, that you messed that up. Oh, I didn't realize. I called him Henry Ford instead of Henry Fonda? Wow, what a big mistake that was. And so polite of you to raise your hand. And then wait till later to correct me and embarrass me in front of our entire audience. Great stuff. Any last thoughts on any movies that were or were not on there? Well, I got one. I've always been a huge fan of The Frisco Kid. I think it's a very underrated movie. Phenomenal acting. Great lead actor. Gene Wilder? You're a big Gene Wilder fan? Oh no, not Gene Wilder. I mean, I am a big Gene Wilder fan, but I was talking about the other guy. Just great cast, great acting overall. I think that's a little underrated bit of a movie and a western, but I would have had that on my list, probably pretty high. But other than that, I thought your lists were pretty good. All right. Well, great stuff from Indiana Jones. Thanks for joining us. Let's get to our second member of the panel. Let's get to King Arthur from Camelot. King Arthur, what are your thoughts on the topic and our 10 best list? And please do keep in mind, we won't be talking about the Holy Grail in any way, shape, or form here today. That topic is kind of off limits. So other than that, what'd you think of this topic? Oh, uh, well, you're kind of cutting me off the knees there a little bit. Uh, what about Quest? Am I allowed to talk about Quest or use that word or invite people on something like that? How do you feel about that? That would be frowned upon. Yeah, we're gonna stray away from that topic as well. So let's just stick to the topic of westerns. What'd you think of the topic? Ah, I see. Well, I guess I have nothing really to add at this time. Let me gather my thoughts here real quick. All right, all right. Well, great stuff from King Arthur. So glad we had him on the panel today. Really great stuff. Let's get to our third member of the panel, though. Let's get to Thor. Thor, you said you're a big fan of westerns. I'd love to hear your thoughts on our list and the topic in general. So, Thor, what do you have to say? Well, I've always enjoyed watching the westerns that your tiny little planet has made with your little fights and your puny little weapons. I've always enjoyed that very much. I don't mean to be disrespectful when I say that, but looking from above, it's very humorous to me to see the little spats, as I call them, that you guys have. I don't mean I mean no disrespect. Huh? And yet you're being very disrespectful. Interesting. Anyway, well, any thoughts otherwise? Well, yes, I do enjoy the westerns that you make here on Earth. I have a few favorites. I would say Tombstone is probably one of my favorites. I do enjoy Val Kilmer's work in that movie. I think he's very good. And then the other one is Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. Honestly, I really like the humor in that movie between those two actors, Paul Newman and Robert Redford. So if I had to choose, I would say those are my two favorite westerns, personally. Oh, all right. Well, surprising insight there from Thor. Thank you very much for those thoughts. And obviously, we love Tombstone and Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid too. We both had them very high on our list. And I would not argue with anyone about having them higher than we did. They're terrific movies. They're great movies. All right, our fourth member of the panel, Mr. Han Solo. I can't wait to hear this. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on this. Han, first of all, thank you for being here again. Second of all, what were your thoughts? What were your thoughts on our list and the topic in general? Please share with us, Han. Well, I dig the topic. I really do. I like westerns. When Star Wars first came out, a lot of people called it a space western. I don't know if you guys know that, but they did. They called it a space western. So I have a lot of similarities. I have a lot of love in my heart for westerns. I enjoyed your list though. I thought they were both good. I'd have to say overall, my favorite western is probably Unforgiven. I will say that. I think that's my favorite western of all time. And I respect William Munny as the main character. I respect the fact that he'll shoot first if he has to. Sometimes you just have to shoot first, and a lot of people don't see it that way, but I respect that aspect of his character, and I respect his character in general. So I really enjoy Unforgiven. I probably would have had that at the top of my list. I will say I agree with Indy, though. I think The Frisco Kid's a very underrated Western, very underrated movie. Just terrific acting in that movie. And I'll throw out a newer one, actually. I thought Cowboys and Aliens was also just a terrific, terrific movie that a lot of people, overlook a little bit. So I liked your list, but I probably would have added those two on there. And I probably would have had them pretty high. I'm not going to lie. Not going to lie. Oh my goodness, I was going to bring up Cowboys and Aliens myself. You were not, Indiana. Yeah, I swear to God, I was going to bring it up too. Oh my goodness, but that's great that you did. Also, it's great to meet another fan of the Frisco Kid. I think that's a great movie, great acting. Boy, I really appreciate your thoughts on this. Really admire you. Oh well, I admire you too. And let me just say, you're a good-looking man. I really like your look. Hey, right here, brother, right here. Huh? Great minds think alike. Great minds think alike. Huh? I dig your style. I dig your moves. I dig your look. I dig you. I don't really understand what's happening right now, Flynn. Do you? Yeah. I think I have a pretty good idea of what's happening right now. To be honest with you, we should probably just move on from our panel real quick. Hey, I just want to thank everyone for being on the panel. We appreciate you guys being here. I did have a thought on my favorite western of all time, if I may. All right, Keen, Arthur, go ahead. What's your favorite western of all time? My favorite western of all time is Blazing Saddles. You know what? That's not bad. That's not bad, Art. I appreciate that input, and with you, it makes a lot of sense. Blazing Saddles. All right. I'm glad we fit that into the episode. Once again, I want to thank the panel for being here. It's a great honor to have you all here and get your thoughts and opinions on everything. Flynn, I think it might be time to wrap this episode up, don't you? Yep, I think it's about that time. Oh, you know what? I would like to kick it back over to Ron one last time for the less Ron segment. Ron, let's get some less Ron opinions in here. What do you got? Oh, I thought we were calling the segment more Ron now. No, we're not. Oh, someone told me that. No one told you that. Okay. Well, I guess my final parting thought is I have started a Twitter page. It's called More Ron, hashtag More Ron. So feel free to get down there and give us your opinions. Ask for more Ron if you want to. Ask Ron to host an episode. I mean, go crazy. Do whatever feels right. That's my final thought. All right. Great thoughts from Ron. I think we might have less Ron next week. Flynn, I think that'll wrap it up for this week. It's a pleasure doing this with you again. Another great episode. I feel good about it. Thank you for being here with me as always, my friend. Thank you, Ali. I had a good time. I had a blast. I'm looking forward to next week's show and next week's topics. So that's all from Princesslandia, and I think we are out of here, yeah? Yeah, we are out of here, and I can't wait to see your coffee mug next week. Oh, it's going to be a good one. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. Hey, Han, what'd you think of Call of the Wild? Call of the Wild? Oh my God, one of my favorite movies of all time. It's fantastic. Me too. Me too. God, you and I are so right here, aren't we? We are so right here. We really are. We really are. God, I respect you. I respect you too, my friend. I really do.